This is Larry Jordan, the host of the Digital Production Buzz. The following interview is an excerpt from a recent program. To hear the entire program, visit digitalproductionbuzz.com. Zach Allen is a freelance production sound mixer and the owner of Sound Geek Productions in Fresno, California. He's been recording sound since he was 17, and for the past 7 years, he's worked in many different productions, including features, commercials, news, sports, and documentaries. Hello, Zach. Welcome.
How you doing?
I'm talking to you. This is going to be fun. I've been looking forward to chatting with you since I got word you were going to be on the show. But before we start talking about improving our audio during production, I'm curious to know how you got started in this business, because I understand it's quite a story.
Yeah, well, I'll take you back. I'll try to skip through it pretty quickly, but basically I came out of Fresno State. I graduated there and moved down to L.A. on an internship that I had working at a sound facility called Daintrax, which is responsible for like Boogie Nights and the Matrix trilogy and all that. So I was pumped at the time to, be in post sound and get my way in there. And I ended up getting hired full time, worked the rest of the year of 2007, and I got laid off at the end because of the writer's strike and the economy crash and all that. So, but during that time, I learned a lot about how sound needs to be, and which I think is a really good approach to going about it, because as a producer, you need to think backwards. You need to know what your final product is, and then work your way back so you know what you need exactly and proper budgets and everything. But that's a separate topic. Anyways, after I got laid off from there, I came back to Fresno, and I was kind of unemployed and trying to do my best, like many other people were probably trying to get work. And I'd keep getting calls every once in a while from random productions coming into the Fresno area asking if I could do sound, because I had my name listed in a local film listing for the area, and I just couldn't do anything because I had no gear. And I would say, yeah, sure, I could do that for you, and love to help you out, but I didn't have any gear at the time, and then I wouldn't hear back from them ever again. So as it turned out, later on, an ex-girlfriend of mine drove us into a walnut tree at 50 miles an hour, and the payout that I got from insurance on that ended up being my first investment into a sound kit. And after I did that, about a couple weeks later is when it just took off. I met a really good producer friend of mine that turned into a good relationship, and I just kind of launched Sound Geek Productions from that, and kind of grew into where I'm at today. So it's interesting, making lemonade out of lemons in a way.
I love it. His girlfriend runs him into a tree, and he starts his company off of that.
Pretty much.
I was just thinking, you've been recording audio since you were 17. What was it that attracted you to audio? Because most guys grab a camera and start taking pictures.
Yeah, I did take the camera path for a little bit, but that came after. I started sound first. I mean, I was always interested in sound when I was really little. My mom would show me pictures of how I'd, be tweaking with sound things, when I was a little kid. But at 17 is when I really took off, because my friends and I, like everybody else at that age, we want to start a rock band to be rock stars and everything. And so I picked up a guitar, and we were playing and stuff, and we got to the point where it's like, we need to record some stuff. Well, we all look at each other stupid, like, well, who's gonna do this, And I'm more of a progressive person to actually do something, so I went ahead and invested in an old Fostex 4-track, on a cassette at the time, and I learned at that point. That's when recording engineering really became like a thing for me, and basically the technology of it kind of started fascinating me more so than the art side of music. And obviously there was more money into it that I saw, so more like a way to make a living.
Yeah.
So I kind of went that route, and I just became really fascinated with, the physics of sound, and tried to learn as much as I can. Even though I'm not very good with math, I understood the, how things work, and I, always kind of strive to always learn more about, the mechanics of making things work right, of sound. So.
Well, getting things to work right is an understatement because one of the things that attracted us to you recently is we got a press release from the folks at Sound Devices, which is a company that makes audio gear and mixers, and you've been using their gear for a while. And one of the things that you were doing is that you were working on a Billy the Kid documentary for National Geographic. I want you to tell me about the project first, and then I want to concentrate on the gear that you're using and why you picked the gear that you did. But what is this Billy the Kid documentary?
Well, the Billy the Kid, it was labeled as the new evidence. And what it was is in here where we live in Clovis, California, there was a man here named Randy who came across an old tintype from a, what do you call it, antique store auction kind of deal. And after 5 years of his own research, and you start to realize that this might be a picture of Billy the Kid and his regulator friends and Sally Chisholm and all that. And a local producer that I worked with often in Fresno got wind of it, and they hooked up and started to realize that there's a story here. There's a documentary that needs to be done. And then it got picked up by Left Field Entertainment, which turned into National Geo. And so what we ended up doing was we were on the road for about 6 months documenting the journey that Randy had of him finding all the different research points that he needed to authenticate this picture, because it didn't have what was called as provenance, which is like a hand-me-down through family generations to prove things. And it needed to be authenticated in a different fashion. So we were doing a lot of on the fly, on the road type work with that.
Well, let's talk about the gear that you were using. We're going to show some pictures. You sent us a delightful collection of images, and we're going to be showing some of the gear that you worked with. But talk about what you use when you're on location. What gear do you have?
Well, for this specific, for this show, I used to use Zaxcom equipment. I started with that. It was a Nomad 12, and it worked fine, but what I found out was the pace that we were shooting and having to deliver footage was so fast that this particular mixer recorder just wasn't keeping up. I was producing. The producers had to wait like hours for me to bounce all the footage down correctly. So what I ended up using was I switched to my Sound Devices stuff, which I've never had a problem with. They work fantastic. I couldn't be happier with them, and I finished out about 3/4 of that 6 months shooting with the 633 and the 688, which were just fantastic machines. And they were working in a lot of different climates. We shot through the summer in the heat in New Mexico, out in these in the middle of nowhere, Old West stuff. It was really good.
Now, when you're working, are you always using the same mic, or do you have a specific mic for a specific task?
I got a small handful of mics that I've kind of been building my the boom mic side of things kind of slow. I have a CMIT Sheps, a CMIT 5U, which is a fantastic mic to have all around. I use that mic for almost all of the interview and on-the-fly dialogue through the.
Now, who's the manufacturer on that?
That's Sheps. Okay. And they're out of Germany. They're a highly renowned company, and they do excellent work with their equipment. And I also used Sanken's CS3E for pulling out dialogue in noisy situations. The CMIT does a pretty good job at that, but when you're really, really trying to isolate something, that CS3E is like a sniper rifle of a boom mic. It's really narrow, and it really rejects a lot of outside stuff you don't want to get.
Now, right now, we're looking at an image of a mixer inside a blue case. We've got a couple wireless, probably 3 or 4 wireless receivers on it. What all is in here, and when would you use something like this?
Well, it sounds like you're looking at my big rig. For a job like this, where you're having multiple, like a reality type thing, the Snap Geo thing that we did was more of a reality documentary type deal. So I had to have Randy, his wife, and other subjects mic'd up all at the same time, and we're mixing them down on the fly. So basically every person's got a wireless channel, and that's a small rig to some others that do the similar work. any more than like 6 to 8 wireless mics going on in one bag for one guy is it's a bit much. It's usually kind of split up and get 2 mixers at that point, or at least they should. We would hope, but sometimes we're stuck with having to keep track of 6+ microphones at one time with people and making sure they're all wired up correctly, that they're clean, or not closing noise, and whatever else technical issues that could be going on with frequency crosstalk and whatnot.
One of the things that impressed me about the photographs that you sent is the variety of different locations you found yourself in. Tell us about some of the places you go, and we'll show some pictures to illustrate just how strange and different they are.
Well, I mean, going back to that story, I told you how I got started with production sound. My producer and friend, his name is Mark, and he does a lot of overseas productions, and that he's invited me to, and we've been all over, like to Haiti, to the Philippines, Romania, Hong Kong, and Russia, Moscow, Ukraine. We've been all over the place, and every single one of these places is a different climate, and just about every place I go to, I've had my 633 with me, and I'm really glad it's such stable, because I would literally come off of one shoot from Haiti, where it's just a hot swamp kind of deal, or like the Philippines, where it's just wet and swampy, to working with some other people out in the snow in the Sierra foothills here that I have nearby me, and I think like the 633 would just kick right through it. It wouldn't even budge. It's great.
Aside from having the right gear and the Schweppes mic that you use, what's the biggest challenge in recording good sound on location?
Well, it is that. Exactly. It's location. Usually when sound mixers like to express that when there's a noise on location, it's not a sound problem, it's a location problem. And that has a lot to do with, scouting where a good area is to be shooting so that you do get good sound. However, it's not always a luxury, so we have to kind of make do with what we have. And a big thing for a mixer is to know your tools. You need to know, like, sometimes even though you want to use your $2,000 boom mic to get the sound, sometimes the $200 lav might have to be used just to, get things down to a point where you're not hearing all the extraneous noise that you don't want. But I'm more of like a boom only kind of guy if it's possible. But a lot of communication with the producers and with the shooters that are organizing the shoot helps with you being able to get good locations to shoot. Be up front with them and have good communication with everybody. Be a good person. Be easy to talk with and communicate with, and that will get you those situations that work in your favor.
Zach, a couple of technical questions before we run completely out of time. When you're recording, what sample rate do you record at? What bit depth do you record at? And what levels do you set?
Well, when I'm usually doing normal shoot dialogue type stuff, I'm at 24-bit, 48K. What was the last question you asked me?
What levels do you set?
Levels. Well, into a camera, you want to kind of set a nominal reference level. And usually that's somewhere between -20 and -18 dBU on a camera. So that's what your tone is usually referencing to get levels set correctly. Your peaks, I usually have my peaks somewhere around -8, -6, and that way it's not too hot, not too soft. Because there's a lot of people, like, you'll turn in audio and they'll be like, "Oh, it's not loud enough," but it's safe and sounds good. Just turn it up on your end a little bit, And it's always different with whoever you're working with. Sometimes they want it overmodulated, not to the point where it sounds bad, but they want it up there, And some people kind of like it a little lower, so it's safe. So, and then there's ways where you can actually deliver both at the same time too, depending upon what kind of mixer you use. But
now we have a live chat running at the same time, and Eric in our live chat wants you to define, when you say you're a production sound person and you're mixing, what do you mean to mix in a live sound environment?
Well, that's kind of a funny story, because depending on the shoot, you end up kind of becoming a tracker, like you're just putting down tracks sometimes. Some of us like to be actually mixing, so we're turning knobs. Let me run it this way real quick. Like, for example, the two mixers I use, they both are multi-track recorders. So let's take the 633, for example. It can record up to 10 tracks. 6 of those are actually ISOs of each input. So what we have is, like, say we got 6 mics, 6 people that are on wireless. We record each one of those people separately on a pre-fade notion, so they're not affected by the fader, post-fade. And what we do is we send all that to a bus, left or right or both, and we're actually listening to the bus and mixing as this is happening in real time. So we're laying down, our version of a post-fade mix on a track or two, and that we like to use as maybe can go direct to camera. I used to do this with a cooking show that I did for 3 years. I was on the road with a crew, and Joey Fatone was our host, and we would. That's how I deliver the whole thing. I would do everything. I would still record the ISOs in case there's a problem in post, but I would deliver a finished, or as best as I could, product of a mix for the editor to take and just pop right in and save a lot of time and money.
Zach, I could talk about audio for, as Mike will attest, for probably hours. But for people that want to learn more about you and your work, where can they go on the web?
They can find me at soundgeekproductions.com. I got to start doing my website up a little bit more and keep more informed, but they can also find me on Facebook under Soundgeek Productions, or my personal page is Zach Allen. They should be able to find me through the Soundgeek Productions that way.
And Zach Allen is the founder and owner of Soundgeek Productions. Zach, this has been fun. Thanks for sharing your time with us.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, guys.
Our pleasure.
Thanks,
Take
Zach.
care. Thank you. Bye-bye. If you'd like to see more videos like this one, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. To stay connected and receive updates from The Buzz, sign up for our free weekly newsletter now. Or you can learn more about us on our website. And thanks for watching The Digital Production Buzz.